Good morning. My name is Daniel Feasey. I'm Head of Marketing at Bell Integration, and we have the pleasure today to be filming at Disruptive Live at the Cloud Expo. I'm joined today by my very good colleague and friend, Claire Crouch, who's an Account Director at Bell Integration. Welcome, Claire.
Hi, Dan.
And Matt George, who's a Director of Segment Marketing at Equinix, as well as one of our partners.
Hi, Dan.
Hello, pleasure to meet you, Matt. Thank you for joining us today. What do you make of the show?
Well, I think it's great to see so many people here in the current situation. So as well as people visiting, I hope people are tuning in to the type of things we're doing, so they can learn, quite a bit about this market, which, is really moving forward.
So I'm excited to wander around myself, really, and I'll certainly get more of an opportunity to do that afterwards, I think, as well. So tell me a little bit about Equinix then. How did it start? Where are they now?
Right, so I won't give you the whole history, I'll try and condense it. So Equinix is, we're really known as a data center and interconnection platform company. Company first started, we're 22 years old. So really started when the internet, really needed to scale, and that was the vision of the sort of founders of Equinix, that if you have a neutral place for the networks to meet, to connect, to run their businesses, then that really was going to help globally the sort of internet drive. So from those early days, we then sort of saw the emergence of what we term ecosystems, industries that need to work together, need to cooperate, need to interconnect, the emergence of cloud and mobility, and those sort of three things combined have sort of taken us to sort of the transformational world we're in today. But in short, the company has moved from co-location, where typically any enterprise would deploy its IT infrastructure, much more to an interconnection play where our 400 locations around the world are connected by our own fabric, and what that means is you can deploy in any of those locations and reach anywhere else. And within those locations you can connect to your networks, your ISPs, your cloud providers, and reach what we now call the edge.
And is it fair to say they're like the Rolls-Royce brand of the data center industry, really? They're the biggest, largest player, are they really?
Yeah.
Certainly in the UK.
We are, globally, we are the biggest in terms of reach, company, and more importantly, interconnection. And what that means is, within our footprint, we have roughly about 10,000 customers. And what those customers are doing, as well as physically deploying, is that they are interconnecting to their partners, their suppliers, even their own businesses. And that interconnection figure, which is way above 350,000, is by far the largest of its kind in the world.
So part of the glue or the fabric of the channel, basically. So.
Yeah, I suppose we're that base layer. We rely on our customers to probably do some of the very clever things. Customers that are with us span all markets, so financial services, content, digital media, manufacturing, energy. Transformation is happening everywhere.
Mm. So you obviously have a very wide customer base. What's your relationship with the actual cloud providers as well, the cloud providers? So
the cloud providers are some of our biggest customers. So with all of the major cloud providers some of them deploy their core nodes, all of them deploy their edge nodes within our locations. So that then enables customers who are already customers of those clouds, or potentially new customers, to directly on-ramp to those cloud providers from a point in Equinix. Now, as you know, and as we see from the show, we're in a hybrid world, we're in a multi-cloud world. So one of the advantages of deploying within Equinix is that you can on-ramp to cloud via a product we call Cloud Exchange. And that enables you to spin up connections to whatever cloud provider you need, whenever you need it. So whoever you're using, we're cloud agnostic, you can do that from a single point in Equinix.
Fantastic, thank you.
Is there an appetite to consume multiple clouds within enterprise companies at the same time, or do people tend to stick with the same vendor? That's
a good question. I think certainly now, multi-cloud provides you, as it states, with it avoids that single vendor lock-in. And I think when you look at the cloud providers, not all of them are equal. Some have strengths in certain sectors, and I think when you look at the variety of enterprises and the variety of needs and use cases that they have, then multi-cloud and hybrid cloud is a good way to go. You know, we see a lot of what I would call cloud-native businesses that may have built, say, their websites or their shop windows in one cloud, but then they're sort of using their marketing capabilities. They need another cloud provider, so they need to sort of connect to those clouds.
And I suppose there's challenges in that, isn't there? Across the vendors as well, making sure they all talk and that they can all be monitored. As you say, not every cloud vendor is as equal as well. Do Equinix play a part in that at all?
Well, one of the big things, this is where we work with partners. So, you know, people like yourselves do a lot of work with data migration, and you yourselves are cloud agnostic. So, you know, when we work with partners, the end user gets the best of both worlds. So sort of automatically have that foundation, i.e. one of our data centers where they can be located, but, you know, specialist services that you guys have, like data migration, moving towards the cloud, that's a great benefit for us to work with the likes of yourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we were talking recently about our complementary relationship whereby Equinix have the capacity to provide all of these multiple locations for their customers, but Bell Integration have the capacity to actually understand the complexity of the migration piece. So utilizing our vClaris tool, which gives us the how, the why, the where, and establish the appropriate location, the appropriate cloud for those applications, and then actually being able to service that via the flexibility of Equinix that we get from you guys.
I think that's where it works really well. I think, you know, we're in the data center interconnection business. We're not necessarily in the data migration business, but working with you guys, that enables us to have a joint conversation. So if you engage the customer or we engage the customer, you know, the person at the end gets the right solution. And for Equinix, we talked about, you know, the size of the company at the beginning and where we've grown. But for us to grow and scale further, we need to work with partners. You know, we have direct sales teams, but going into the channel, working with partners gives us greater reach. And that for us is critically important. I think over the next 12 months, we're expecting globally 25 to 30% of our business to come from the partner channel. So, you know, relationships with Bell are very important to us.
I think it's very similar in Bell. We stand on the shoulders of giants. I think it's the right for it. It's
Yes.
try and mix up, but you lean on other people's skill sets. If people are the expert or the best provider, it makes sense to join hands. That's all part of the new philosophy within the channel. It's less combative, isn't it? It's more the ecosystem. We're all friends now, and there's plenty of business to go around, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think working with organisations and companies like Equinix, we're able to offer that multi-vendor, but potentially consolidate that through one supplier or a couple of suppliers. So we're mitigating risk as much as possible, but giving customers the option to go wherever they choose to go based on the optimization and the requirements of their business.
I think, you know, there are, as I was saying at the beginning, if we look at every sector, you know, it's in the midst of transformation. You talk to any C-level exec, they've got a cloud enablement strategy. So there's a lot of questions to be asked, and I think what we're hearing is that when, you know, suppliers or vendors are honest about the capabilities and reach of their own services, and having conversations where you've got more than one vendor in the room is really beneficial for the end user, because I don't think one company has all the answers. So, you know, working together in a ever-changing landscape is critically important. And for us, you know, our business, one of the other key elements of our business is that we want companies that are going to deploy in multiple regions. You know, from a commercial point of view, the more POPs or points of presence they have is better for us. The more interconnections they're going to make, the stickier they're going to be.
So what are the challenges operating as a global company then Matt? Because I know Bell are as well. We certainly have our own challenges on it.
I think there's challenges and there's opportunities. As I said, the world is the digital world is a much smaller place. So if you take companies that are of digital origin, cloud native, they can spin up very quickly. They sort of talk that language. One of the challenges is when you're working with big global companies that have got legacy IT, legacy sort of infrastructure or applications in multiple places, to sort of bring that together. But one of the key advantages is that we can have a conversation about something in Hong Kong, and it's a similar conversation that can be in London, it can be in the US, and bring in the right people in the room to have that conversation. So you have an area of control being a global company.
All backed up by the original infrastructure in a company and where it actually is. So that kind of and the nature of the business as well, it kind of spread globally. So wherever it leads from, you could then dip back in. It's not like, because digital, it's not like you have to go travelling to find it, if it's my
No, and I
point.
think that's, we mentioned the edge in passing at the beginning of the conversation. And I think that, the definition of the edge is probably different in everybody's language, but what we're seeing is that people want to interact wherever they are. Whether you're an end user customer or whether you're an enterprise company trying to run its business. So our locations provide that edge. And what you're also going to see now is that it won't necessarily be a physical edge. So Equinix will be moving towards a product offering where you can actually spin up virtual infrastructure. You don't physically need to bring your own kit. And that is all that's all part of the sort of product development, but I think it's fair to say it's being driven by the world that we're in.
Excellent.
Well, I'm really looking forward to doing loads more work with you guys, Matt. I really am, and thank you so much for spending the time with us this morning. It's been great.
It's a pleasure, and as I said, it's a mutual benefit, so thank you for your time.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for joining us.